My name's Don Fisher. I'm the interim principal here, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to Green, particularly if it's the first time you've been. We hope we will keep you coming back very often. I'm going to leave the land acknowledgement to Bronwyn. I just want to say how delighted we are at Green that this new series is beginning. It's a poetry reading, or reading series, I should say, whole cloth, and Bronwyn and Ellie are the two organisers, and I'm just going to hand over to both of them, and thank you. Welcome, everybody.
Thank you so much, Don, and thanks everybody for being here. Ellie had organized a whole cloth reading series, and then, like many things during COVID, it kind of went on a pause. And then I had the fortune of meeting Ellie this past summer, and we were like, what if we were able to get it going again? And we're really pleased that we've been able to do so, and couldn't imagine a better first new reader than Blythe and this exciting new book. So for anybody who doesn't know, Whole Cloth Reading Series is an experience in deep listening. So often, poets put a lot of thought into composing a manuscript, and what's the beginning, and how do you lead in, and how does it move, and how does it end? But often in a reading, you only hear one poem here, one poem there, little snippets, and not that whole experience. So we have one reader, one whole book. We pick books that are short enough that it isn't a marathon experience. And we get to sit here and listen to this whole book together, and then we'll have a little bit of time to ask Allie a few questions about writing the book. And then we invite you to join us in just across the hall in the piano lounge, where there will be coffee and tea and a large cheese and fruit plate that I have experienced before. And just a few things down next term. So this is our only event this term, but you can mark your calendars for February 13th. We'll have Rajiv Mahabir coming from Colorado to read a book called Whale Aria that involves whale sounds and poems influenced by whale sounds. And then April 10th, Jasmine Elizabeth Smith will be reading South Flight, which is a kind of documentary poetics, persona poems about Black diaspora in Oklahoma. Really interesting work. So thank you so much for joining us today. We gather tonight on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded lands of the Musqueam people, on a place that has been a center of learning and storytelling for generations and millennia. And we're honored to be here with you tonight. I'm going to turn the mic over to Ellie to introduce Allie, but I also just wanted to say we do have some community copies. Instead of having wine and beer at our reception, we opted to have coffee and tea and buy books to be able to pass out to you all. So we would just ask that you kind of share around copies with people near you if we don't have quite enough to go around. And then afterwards, I believe Allie would be up for signing some copies if people are interested in that, and you can take them home to live with you. So, Ellie.
Thank you, Bronwyn. I have to say it's such a joy working with Bronwyn. My name is Ellie Kralji-Gardner, and I'm a poet and editor, and I am saying hello to the people who are watching the live stream. Let's remember that there are people joining us from afar who are going to be looking down at the tops of our heads. And it is an absolute pleasure to be here with you amidst the incredible organizers of Green College who've made this a very hospitable and generous occurrence for not just Allie, but also for Bronwyn and for me, and so grateful to have good support in the room. So thanks to everybody at Green College, including the people who are maintaining the systems and things that I don't even know about, including who's bringing the cheese platter, who's been in charge of making this room look so glowing and gorgeous. So we're here this evening to experience 48 pages of Stedfast. This is the third collection from Blythe. The British Columbia Review calls Stedfast a slow burn that leaves a mark. And the Bull Calf said in review that his poetry is a potent form of touch. Stedfast takes its name from John Keats' last sonnet, "Bright star, would I were steadfast as thou art." Taking place over one night, the poet in bed next to a sleeping lover, his revelatory poems struggle with questions of illusion and reality, immersion and escapism, that which endures and that which is transient. Held taut in formal quivers of short lines, each poem is shot through with eros, to address, to dress and undress, the subject of the love poem and perhaps love itself. Ali is here fresh from his participation in the Fraser Valley Literary Festival and his non-literary day job on Vancouver Island to be here with the Green College community for 2 nights. And his poems and essays are published in national and international literary journals and anthologies, including the Broadview Introduction to Literature, Best Canadian Essays, Best Canadian Poetry. He's held roles as a guest editor for special editions of literary magazines, including the League of Canadian Poets, ARC Magazine, and Malahat Review, and as editor-in-chief for the Claremont Review, which is an international literary magazine for youth. I spent the last few years jostling Ali for poems, cajoling him to let me see iterations of the manuscript. Thank you for sharing them with me, Ali. But it's not just me who waited impatiently for this collection. CVC and 49th Shelf had Stedfast on their most anticipated 2023 fall poetry preview, in part due to the strength of Ali's previous 2 books, which concerned trans-poetics. Hymn Switch from 2019 and his debut, Twoism, from 2015. Both collections were Dorothy Livesay BC Book Prize finalists. Hymn Switch was a Walrus Top 10 book and a CBC Most Anticipated title, winner of the Volume Award for Poetry, and given 2 National Magazine Award nominations. And Twoism appeared on the Rusty Tug's Best of 2015 list and earned Ali the Dane Ogilvy Prize for LGBTQ Emerging Writers. Ali said in a Malahat Review conversation with Serena Bandar, "If you stop listening to your imagination, it stops talking to you." In this new collection, he continues, "To write any love poem, you must first invent the poet who will write it." And I can't think of a better poet to relaunch the Whole Cloth reading series, where deep listening and deep attention determine the shape of the evening. Stedfast is a stream of comets that, as it dances across the page, illuminates our velvet night. And I hope you enjoy co-dreaming in this space tonight. And I'll leave on one endorsement from the wonderful poet C.A. Conrad that references both Ali's nimble language and his love of movement. Blythe is the Nijinsky of poetry for our precarious world. Ali Blythe. I would welcome everyone to make yourselves comfortable throughout this experience. If you need to get up, if you need to stretch, if you want to lie down on the floor, be gentle with your neighbors, be gentle with the listening, but please do take care of yourselves and do what you need to do to sink into the listening.
Wow, just what a generous thing you all are doing here at Green College. I can't get over it, Don. Thank you so much, Ellie, Bronwyn, everyone who's put this on, all these scholars gathered in the woods together. And it's just like, why isn't the world like this? It's so wonderful. I haven't ever experienced anything like this before, actually. I think it is a new vanguard that is looking backwards in time to where we might find Keats and Shelley and others, actually. So I'm just delighted to be here, and thank you so much. I love this Ideas and Friendship staring at us, because that's what it's all about. And I see many amazing poets in the room as well. And hello, and loves. And hi to everyone from afar. Is everything okay? Yeah. Oh. Hello. Okay, we're in a place of refuge right now, and it's fitting because that's the theme of this night for me, is refuge. what makes a book of poems a refuge was something I started thinking about 6 years ago. It took me about 6 years to write this very slim volume. I started thinking about it. What makes poetry a refuge? Is it the images that stay with you? Is it the rhyme? Is it the rhythm that you can call back to you when times aren't good, actually? And one line just kept coming back to me and back to me and back to me, and that was, "Bright star, would I were steadfast as thou art." I couldn't stop thinking about it. And of course it's from Sonnet of Keats, John Keats, the Romantic poet, what would come to be known as his last sonnet. And he last wrote it when he was on a ship just off the coast of Naples, 3 months before he would die. And he couldn't come to shore for 10 days because of a quarantine. And so he took a volume of Shakespeare's sonnets off the shelf, and next to a blank page, he scribbled in this poem, which he may have written before, but it was the last known entry. And so I started thinking, how can I write myself a place of refuge in this poem? And so I created this new form, which I've now called the break and enter form, in which I took his sonnet and broke it into 28 parts, 2 sections of 14 with a volta in the middle, if anyone cares about sonnets. Yeah. And I took each of those, what became titles, and wrote a poem into them with my very contemporary style. Because it was important for me to write my own love poems into his love poem, to write marginality into the canon, to write myself into this work, to find a place of refuge in it. And so the first poem, Bright Star, which took me 6 months or something like that. The second poem, Would I Were Stedfast. Third poem, As Thou Art. And onward, scribbled into one notebook. So I would just like to read his poem to begin, of course. We'll call him here tonight, this 25-year-old who wrote this sonnet. And then I'll read my work, which, as Ellie said, takes place over the course of one night. Because as I wrote this place of refuge, I wrote a place of refuge into my own life as well. And so one night, lying next to a sleeping love, calling out into the night with all one's anxieties, all one's fears, all one's love, but really apostrophe, like, I'm not talking to the love because the love's asleep, just like Keats, like I struggle with his romantic vision as well. And that comes out in these poems as well. Like, who are we actually talking to here? Are we actually talking to our love, or are we talking to our ideas of love? So I'll read his poem, and then we'll start. And because I am a bit of a form nerd, we will take an intermission at the Volta. We will reset, we will relight, and then we will come back 2 minutes later with the flick of the lights. So feel free to do whatever you want in that time, because in a intermission, you can go off, you can have a chat, a drink, use the washroom, do whatever you want, and I'll be waiting here for you. Okay, this is exciting. We've never done this before. We're in it together now. Bright star, here you are, unsteadily shining next to me, after a long and lustrous journey from afar. Okay, little torch, it's time I got to work once more, hitching my constellation of illusions to you. Would I were steadfast. In beloved darkness, surfeited with eros, I wheel, unfixed. Be outside your human smallness, the stars want to tell us. But the night just pours with the same old stories. My little who did what to whom memorial. As thou art. I believe everything you've ever told me. We'll use it all to conceive a nocturne for your childhood violin. In it, someone small tries to compose a self while God listens. Not in lone splendor. My own composition is called Nothingness. The notes should be played by a solitary wind instrument who flies in the window, strikes a mirror, then flies out again. No matter that the mirror, too, is almost entirely empty space. I could see right through this infirmity if I weren't on such a path of devotion. Hung aloft the night. Even though you are phenomenally astronomical, you are singular and thus cannot be listed in my illicit Messier catalog. It's for celestial archers who wish to part mystery with their quiver of looking, to find a comet of eros, which shifts and shimmers like someone trying to sleep, like someone with an injury. And watching with eternal lids apart. The lyric address of the divine will never be ours. Failing to illuminate ourselves, we seize what shines. These disquieting thoughts are like the dried sea fireflies, kept in glass cases. Even after many decades, when ladled with water, their spent bodies glow with a cold blue ethereality. Like you've crushed a fairy, says one scientist, and another world is tunneling through your eyes to the theater of the mind. Like nature's patient. You were in Earth's infirmary, receiving an incandescent drip of departing minutes. I am bringing you some gifts, the soft dirt of our youth and immortal camaraderie, 2 shots of our highest proof, an invisible box, its inaudible music. Sleepless hermit. This night is full of uninvited guests who won't quit apostrophizing. Good Lord, the unceasing speeches, reveries, apologies, formal need, and forceful perorations. Cut it out, boy. That's me, yelping at me. A hormonal wafting who was eaten alive by the sayable. Everyone is asleep. You, our animals, the street. In these mirrors, I am a clairvoyance of one. The moving waters at their priest-like task. Nothing will ever be our anticipated debut. Still, don't we seem to keep rushing the stage? I suppose the orchestra is still warming up. It's partway through the tuning, and 2 oboes are underwater, handing a cup of heartbreak back and forth. No one's in the theater but us, my darling. To acknowledge this, the elemental ceremony. Of pure ablution round Earth's human shores. Say we're back at the beginning, but this time the gods leave you in the seminary of no wrong moves, the riverine glasses of your own dreaming. Or gazing on the new. This will be the one where the two actors won't play their scripted parts. The man with the poison on his lips, the woman with the sword in her side. A crew of scenic designers adjusts the shadow set. The lighting technicians uncross the stars. In preparation, brooms the size of my eyelashes sweep and sweep. Soft fallen. Aren't we but two asterisks atop white sheets? The courage to die is the test of the courage to be, says one philosopher. I might too if I were born in Starzettle and buried in New Harmony, instead of Port Hope and TBD. My little star, we mustn't omit all that's between, our falling together, appended here, so briefly. Mask of snow. The latest hypnagogic instruction is to pick up last year's mask and wear it till a new year comes freshly through the door, with all the other partygoers in their relatable costumes. My mask is made of snow, the sign for which is the same as the sign for rain, except for the fluttering of fingers. As we enact the helixing of time, my expression tries to be so bright and cool. Oh, look, how beautiful. I hope it sticks. Upon the mountains and the moors. There will be no sunrise service, but somehow we'll intuit the billowy sermon that we can't return. We can only revise what it all meant. I won't forget my own hand in this, how I rummaged in your black purse. Whatever I was after vanished with my touch. Do you remember that one night? Cry after cry poured out of the hills. After a time alone, the coyotes were conjuring each other. No, yet still. During intermission, we are meant to imagine that the action carries on without us. Once an act could only go on for the length of a candle. Then an interlude in which all is reset, relit. We must re-enter so softly on our faux pas de deux. The scene has changed, but two figures continue their delicate revolutions. Stedfast. In a pouty bout of astral projection, I have done the manly thing and hunted you into the stars. But perhaps your mythical creature is really hydrophytic, with scientific internal luggage, capable of submerging, emerging, and floating. I espouse you for captain of living waters, to replace the old candidate who makes one fear one's own body-mind like a hometown. Let me get behind you. Let's don the new jerseys for our team with a flash of toplessness for everyone. The blue window of sadness might lighten, but don't worry about your mortal love. You don't have to forget. Flowers remain of your tears. Though your reverence is not for the Ovidian joke of transformation, like mine is, you revere movement. The stream flow wands its yellow glow stick along life's tenebrous surface, and you are recording. The export is memory alone, nothing to cause further study in the anthropology of discard by outlasting you. Nothing to join the piles on earth, the gyres in the heavens and seas. All this bright overlapping of matter, energy, and interpretation. These nouns, verbs, adjectives. I was once drunkenly controlled by the adverb. But now I know. One moves. I will not say how because you are the mystic of your own how. Among all this pretty subsisting, who could know the secret plan? We are all just momentary temperature wences with our sibylline sets of ancestral instructions. Still unchangeable. Inside me you run a generator. It has so much currency, but not enough money for even a weak coffee. So soon we must go out into the world to communicate partially our own understanding of how we can all continue to exist. And this too is a kind of love, for which we are remunerated just enough that we can continue to live here together, hoarding strength in mugs, browsing all that has happened, what may come. Could we please search dancer, ballet, male, body, unrealistic model? And on point from the engine, I'll be returned. No terms are forever. I wish to enter yours so carefully. Pillowed upon. Let me alight where I am, in the blackest blooms, tending your posy of energy. The only gardening I do is here with you, growing desire from nothingness. My fair love's ripening breast. Where is that host who will buzz us in, sweep us upward into the bash of light, pouring blue drinks into crystal glasses so we may toast another day and all that has fallen to us? You in your flush suit, mingling with mine. I keep pressing the glowing button for morning. To feel forever. Every night a minor festival of making ourselves known, a slow landscape, our stolen home, where the hills are set about like pillows. The dog is a system of silence when he moves to my hand to ask if it's yet morning. The cat keeping warm between us, full of sparrow. First choruses from the willow, its lashes still loaded with mascara. I am in a good place. The thought tumbles from a higher blossom onto a similar blossom. A black dress slipped down. A star's proof in its wavering. We keep practicing the broken onto of dawn, trembling and ardent spring flowers on one mountain instead of two. Its soft swell and fall. Each new day is cut from the key of the last, microscopically changed and changed, so the door that flings open is never the same door at all. I will erase even this, try to remember it better, write it out again, and so on down the page of us. If I must believe in something, I choose eternal repetition. I'm slipping you the key to the infamous hotel, with its long hallway of choosing you. Awake forever. I moonlight as a ghostwriter who responds to burned or buried letters. They all seem to begin, "Yours ever. I wish you'd go back to writing me love poems." To which, you romantic, I must once again reply, "Just what on earth do you think I'm doing here?" It was once said that to write any love poem, you must first invent the poet who will write it. There is no return post from ashes or dust. But don't worry, I am nearly there. In a sweet unrest, all this wasted brilliance we lie within, surrenderish, prone, in a midlife that finds us so uncomposed, enjoying companionship with a faraway fear, just two animals making their possibilities known. Still, still. Being in love is a lake. The world turns upside down. We shatter it when we dive in. How dark it had to become. To see the unnumbered sparks on each shook swell. To feel their gold hooks fixed in us. To hear her tender taken breath. My better angels sing to me if I don't move too much. But I am only what comes instinctively. I, the body, the instrument, the baton, the bow, the quiet note of your accompaniment librates air. And so live ever. For 1 moment, we're held just so, by a hand that knows us best, as though we're silk stems or a hare's ears, in the soft grip of suspense before we are lifted from the magician's hat. Or else swoon. A winter dawn, we swan in the follow spot of our fabled stage. A man with a bow and arrow pursues a wedge of swans to a lake of tears and finds refuge, unfledged. Or he steals a swan's coat and marries her telluric nakedness. Or he's swan-drawn, driving a heavenly chariot, losing control of time. Or he throws down the bow between the lines of his indecision and receives furious oration from the charioteer who drove him into an impossible position. There are no swans in that one. Just divine self-revelation between best friends. In one, you play the young man cured of his love for another young man. I play the other young man who, enraged, drowns. Will you sing and dive where I fell to you? The gods will so enjoy your sad songs, they'll transform you into a heavenly swan. In another, you play the black swan, and you play the white swan, and I play the prince who chooses wrong. To break the spell, he must pledge his love. I hope he breaks his weapon and does. Or let us both play Nijinsky and just keep lifting the form with our queerness. It's a lake or a city, a battlefield, the sky, ancient fiction, it's just a stage. In every story, the appetent hand takes hold, an apotheosis of love. We drown or ascend, or die best friends by each other's side. In our immarital bed, a cloud of feathers is gathering at our thighs, our fingers. We open our mouths, and I swear I don't make these things up. Clouds. Tipped gold or lead, one arrow pluming in. Toward one myth, dissolving within another, risking our own nihility. To death. I no longer commit apostrophe when I say to you, good morning, and not to hurry when you dress. I too shall remain unadorned, but for a dangling earring. Bright star, would I were steadfast as thou art, not in lone splendor, hung aloft the night, and watching with eternal lids apart, like nature's patient, sleepless hermit, the moving waters at their priest-like task of pure ablution round earth's human shores, or gazing on the new soft-fallen mask of snow upon the mountains and the moors. No, yet still steadfast, still unchangeable, pillowed upon my fair love's ripening breast, to feel forever its soft swell and fall, awake forever in a sweet unrest, still, still to hear her tender taken breath, and so live ever, or else swoon to death.